Farmers in the United States today are facing two major problems. Number one, the crutch of subsidies, and number two, poor soil health. By definition, subsidies are tax-funded payments from a government to a business entity. In the case of agricultural subsidies, they are tools that are supposed to serve and protect small, struggling farmers. But, in reality, these seemingly harmful policies don't actually end up helping small farmers. Instead, they devastate millions of people around the world. The common usage of tilling and pesticides in our farming practices today have ruined the quality of our soil, killing essential microorganisms. This leads to many negative side effects, such as desertification that turns our once moisture-rich soil into dust. This also means that our soil, specifically the microbes in our soil, are no longer able to sequester carbon, meaning it is now unable to capture and store carbon from the atmosphere. So now for some background. During the Great Depression, the United States government wanted to save family farms that were potentially going under. To do this, they awarded subsidies to farmers to offset the potential risk of loss, artificially sustaining the industry. And these policies have continued to grow, disrupting the very market small farmers around the world depend on to create sustainable wealth. And now to dive into the economic problems. Crop subsidies burden American families with higher taxes and higher food prices. They harm small farmers by excluding them from subsidies because in reality, crop subsidies operate as America's largest corporate welfare program. And since the government is intervening with the market to pay the farmer to produce, it therefore eliminates competitors, resulting in the producer setting a price that is not ultimately determined by the free market, overall leading to consumers paying a higher price for their products. And now to move on to some of the environmental problems. So 70% of the U.S. cropland grows animal feed instead of produce, and the United States Department of Agriculture uses the Commodity Credit Corporation to give farmers the price guarantee for growing certain crops like corn and barley. But if farmers decide to change this by managing their land for soil health instead, it will likely increase their profits and remove their crutch on subsidies. So one of the proposed solutions is regenerative agriculture. One aspect is rotational grazing, in which a large pasture is divided into smaller blocks where then cattle are moved from section to section to graze. This method is better for the environment than traditional feedlots because they don't produce tremendous amounts of greenhouse gases, and it also allows cattle to graze and revive spaces. Some of the many benefits include improving the net productivity, growing more food per acre, grass stabilizing the soil, which prevents other issues like runoff, and the manure distributing microbes to the soil as well. Another aspect is crop diversification, which allows for more harvests every month instead of purely just seasonally. And also, growing multiple species accelerates biological time, and therefore the livestock is able to graze on this in the winter. The second proposed solution involves locally sourcing our food. This means less emissions from transportation. It also means more flavor for us, as crops are now picked at their peak ripeness versus being harvested early in order to be shipped and distributed to retail stores. And since nutrient value tends to decrease over time, the shorter time between harvest and table means more nutrients. The third potential solution involves less tilling and pesticide use. By using the least amount of mechanical disturbance, there will be an increase in organic matter as well as microbes. This will result in a decrease in erosion and runoff and also more fertility. By increasing our regulations on pesticides, we are putting ourselves less at risk for the many negative impacts that pesticides can have on our health, such as cancer and organ damage. And we are also giving less of a chance for chemicals to enter our air, water, and land. In 1935, the Soil Conservation Service was created by Roosevelt in response to the Dust Bowl. His goal was to control floods, prevent the impairment of reservoirs, maintain the navigability of our rivers and harbors, protect public health and our public lands, and also relieve unemployment. This gave farmers subsidies to plant native species rather than commercial crops that deplete soil nutrients. In 2015, Stephen LaFolle introduced the 4 for 1,000 initiative with the goal to increase the carbon content in the world soil by 0.4% annually, which is the same amount that humanity emits each year. 30 countries ended up signing the pledge, but unfortunately, the 3 largest carbon dioxide contributors, India, the United States, and China, did not end up signing. This policy encourages farming techniques that improve soil health, and they also increase food security and combat climate change at the same time. A quote I took from the Kiss the Ground documentary is that we must harness the regenerative power of Earth itself, which should encourage us to implement sustainable policies, especially those relating to farming. And here are my sources.